Talk about low budget flights, no food or movies? I'm out of here. I like running better. Welcome back, YouTube viewers, to another video. So, some of my most popular videos are ranking every DreamWorks movie that I've seen, ranking every Pixar movie that I've seen. So I thought, why not do ranking every Disney animated movie I've ever seen? And just to say that this list will not be as long as those were, even though there are way more Disney animated movies than there are DreamWorks and Pixar, I don't care to see as many of them. And I'm also just not as enthusiastic about a lot of these as some of the ones from the other studios, but I still like a lot of these, and I figured, hey, why not do this list? Not only will it probably get way more views than most of my other videos, I just wanted to do this, because there's no way I will ever talk about most of these. So without further ado, let's do it to it. Starting off with number 14 is the only movie here that I've seen that I do not like, and that is Ralph Breaks the Internet. Yeah, I don't have anything to say that everyone else hasn't said 1,000 times before. This movie is terrible. It completely goes against the original Wreck-It Ralph. The characters are completely ruined. It's too long. It's poorly paced, and it's just terrible. You've all heard how bad Ralph Breaks the Internet is 1,000 times before. There's nothing I could add that you haven't heard already. I guess I'll just say that it's. I saw this before I saw the original movie, and I thought it was okay, but after seeing the original and thinking about this movie, I can say, yeah, this is genuinely terrible. I'm never gonna see this again. Okay, number 13, Meet the Robinsons. This is good. Not very good, but good. I like this movie. I mean, of course, yes, Bowler Hat Guy is amazing. Best character in the movie, one of the best Disney villains ever, but the rest of the movie is just good. I mean, it tells a pretty good story. I like Lewis as the main character. It's got some nice emotional moments. I think it can be pretty funny. But what really holds this movie back for me is the fact that, while it is funny, none of it is laugh out loud funny, except for Bowler Hat Guy, of course. The rest of it's just, haha, that was funny. It just didn't leave as much of an impression on me as I hoped it would, and the visuals, well, I'm not going to blame this as much as this was only Disney's second 3D animated movie. When Ratatouille came out the same year as this, and look, I know it was going for a realistic approach, but Over the Hedge released a year earlier, there is no excuse for this to look the way it does. But still, writing-wise, this is a good movie that I liked a lot. I can definitely understand why it's become a cult classic. It's good. Number 12, Tangled. I am very split on this movie. I can't decide whether or not it's good or very good. Because there's a lot to like in Tangled. Well, one, this was Disney's fourth 3D animated movie, so they finally started to actually look good. I mean, this still isn't quite the same level as other animated movies that year. I mean, this came out the same year as How to Train Your Dragon and Toy Story 3, which just look really good even by today's standards. And this still holds up pretty well and looks good, but I mean, it doesn't look as good with the exception of stuff like the lantern scene, which is the whole I See the Light scene is just amazing. Writing, music is pretty good. I like the song. The visuals, it's all really nice. And the rest of the movie, it's funny. I liked it. I liked Rapunzel and Eugene as the two main characters. Gothel was a pretty good villain. The plot is nice and simple. It was pretty well paced. I enjoyed it. I just don't. Something about it doesn't hit for me. Maybe it does. I'm not really sure what it is exactly. I mean, one, Gothel's, while a good villain, is still kind of just a Frollo wannabe. You cannot tell me that she was not based off Frollo. I mean, come on. Although, as for something else to add, okay, though, this movie did do quite well. I mean, even 7 years after it came out, it ended up getting a entire 60-episode TV show, which is pretty impressive. But I mean, how is this not the cute Disney animated movie from the 2010s ended up being a billion-dollar hit? How was Frozen, which, spoiler alert, is not on this list? I know I saw it years ago, but all I remember is that I really didn't like it, and there's no way I'm watching it again. Yeah, it has a terrible twist villain, but just poorly, it's poorly written. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. Point is, Tangle is a good movie. I can definitely understand why so many people say it's amazing, and I liked it. That's it. I'll probably watch it again sometime, and if I do, then my opinion will probably get better. Number 11, Moana. Moana is very good. Uh, I don't much like Tangled. I don't think this is quite the masterpiece that everyone says it is, but I enjoyed this a lot. I mean, it sure is the better Disney movie of 2016. That's for sure. I mean, Kung Fu Panda 3 is still obviously the best movie of 2016, but this is a close second. I enjoy this one a lot. Moana's a pretty good main character. Definitely not one of the best, but I mean, a good one. I like Maui. I'm very surprised that not only can The Rock act, but he can also sing. I mean, the You're Welcome song is definitely my favorite song in this movie. The visuals are all very good. Of course, like I'm not even just saying this as a joke or whatever, or because of Sherfill's productions, but I do genuinely believe that the whole shiny sequence is the best part of the movie. It just is with all the visuals and the song and the way, and it does do a pretty good job progressing the story and the characters. So it's a good part of the movie. As for the rest of it, I like it. Um, I like that they made it a whole seafaring adventure type story. That was fun. But overall, this one, much like Tangled and Meet the Robinsons, this just didn't quite leave much of an impression on me, which is really true of a lot of these. Which is not something I can say about DreamWorks or Pixar, where tons of their movies have left impressions on me. But still, Moana is very good and is the final film of Ron Musker and John Clements. I have to say they went on a pretty high note. I have no expectations for the sequel and I'm not going to watch it, but I'll get into that at the end. Okay, number 10, Pinocchio. Pinocchio is very good. I like this movie. This is only Disney's second movie, and I'd say, yeah, it probably, even if I watched some of their others, this would probably still be number 10. I don't know, maybe some others are a little better, but this is a really good one. I enjoyed this a lot. I like just how crazy this movie is sometimes with the way it shows all the trouble that Pinocchio could potentially get into. And he's a pretty good main character too. I like Jiminy Cricket, of course. Who doesn't? The visuals are all very impressive. I like how this is kind of a morality story. Sure, you can't really blame Pinocchio for not knowing any better and getting into the things he does because he was sort of born yesterday, as it were. But still, I enjoyed this a lot. I definitely understand why this is such a classic. It's not the best thing ever, but I enjoyed it, and maybe I'll watch it again someday. Number 9, The Emperor's New Groove. I really wish I could have put this in the top 3 or top 5 or something, but it just wasn't as funny as as I was hoping it would be. Don't get me wrong, this is still pretty funny, but much like Meet the Robinsons, nothing in it is a laugh out loud funny. It's still quite funny though. I mean, the visuals are all very nice. I like how short this is. I called Madagascar in a previous video the duck soup of animation, but no, this is the duck soup of animation. This, well, does have some emotional moments. This is as short as duck soup is, and it's just even more, and it's just as bonkers as, almost as bonkers as that movie. The characters are all really memorable and likable and funny. It's just so well paced with how quick everything goes, but nothing feels like it's too short. And it just has this really nice sense of absurdity that never goes too far to the point of where it's just nonsense for the sake of nonsense. Also, I'm pretty sure this is Disney's only comedy to date, so it's nice to know the one they made was one that has gone down as a classic. Although the one thing I can say is that I cannot watch this movie without hearing Sully from Monsters Inc. every time I hear Pacha speak. John Goodman's voice is just his voice for me is too ingrained as Sully, but still, that's not really a problem with this movie, just something I'd like to say. It's really funny, even if not quite as funny as I hoped it would be. And you know what? Is it sad that we never got the original version of this movie, Kingdom of the Sun, which would have been some big drama? I guess, but what we got was pretty good in its own right, so I'm not really going to complain. Number 8, Tarzan. I really like Tarzan. I find it interesting that, with the exception of The Rescuers Down Under, I guess, for obvious reasons, but this is the only Disney Renaissance movie to not be a musical. I mean, it kind of is, because there's a ton of songs, which, they're all good. None of them's really stuck out to me, but I like them all. Although it's not a problem this isn't a musical. I think that might have slowed down this movie a bit. I can't really think of any way you could have made it a musical. I like how it takes the story of Tarzan with him being raised by gorillas and eventually meeting Jane and her father, and the villain is really stands out to me as unlike the other villains of the time from Disney movies, who at least have some vague level of motivation or something. It's not even that this guy is just he hates gorillas. Doesn't even explain why he hates gorillas. He just does, and then he gets hanged at the end. Uh, anyway, I found this one to be pretty funny. That was good, but the visuals are all really impressive. I like Tarzan as the main character. Um, there's one part. Um, yeah. Oh yeah, I like how it shows how Tarzan gets his famous cry for the first time. How he does it when he kills a tiger and holds it up for all the gorillas to see. I kind of wish he did his crime more than that one time than at the very end, but still, it's not a huge problem. And I like that they did a movie like this. I mean, everyone knows the story of Tarzan, but I think it was nice they made an entire movie like this, and it was just a good time. I enjoy this one. Number 7, Lilo and Stitch. Again, much like some of those other movies, I don't think this is a masterpiece like everyone says, but hey, Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois sure know how to make a good movie. Oh, I really hope the Wild. Who else is speaking of Chris Sanders? Who else is excited for the Wild Robot? Can't wait for that to come out. But anyway, yeah, back to Lilo and Stitch itself. This is a really good movie. They were able to blend the whole alien subplot with the more realistic plot of Lilo and her sister very well. I guess Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois just know how to write. What can I say? Directing is also very good. Visuals are really good. I like that this movie has actual voice actors as some of the characters. At least specifically for that alien captain is voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, which is so weird to hear him in a mainstream animated movie. I mean, yeah, he was in TMNT, but that wasn't really mainstream. And also, this is before he was even that prolific, but they just cast him anyway. Nothing, no specific scene really hit me or anything like it does for a lot of other people. Because, yeah, as I've said before, none of these really just left as much of an impression on me. This one kind of did, but I don't know, it's just missing something. That said, Stitch is a really funny character. I can totally understand why there's all this merchandise of him. I think the story it told about family was very nice, and I appreciated it a lot. Uh, all the alien stuff was pretty entertaining in its own right. I mean, I probably would have watched a movie that was just that, but I like that they were able to blend it with something a little more grounded, and it worked very well. They're doing a live action remake of this. That's gonna be terrible. I hope they don't drag Chris Sanders into that, much like they probably did with Dean DeBlois for the How to Train Your Dragon remake. But anyway, Lilo and Stitch is really good, but it's no masterpiece. Okay, moving on. Number 6, Wreck-It Ralph. Much like I just said a bunch of times, this isn't a masterpiece, but I can understand why everyone says it is. Wreck-It Ralph is just a really good movie. It's also funny that this came out the same year as Brave. That was a Pixar movie that was obviously trying to be a Disney princess movie, and much like some Disney princess movies, was terrible. This, on the other hand, is from Disney, but it feels like a Pixar movie, and that's definitely a good thing. Still not my favorite animated movie of 2012. That gotta be Rise of the Guardians for sure, but this was really good. Ralph is a really great main character. I liked his whole story throughout the entire movie, just wanting to get some respect, wanting to get a medal, making friends with other people. Vanellope's a pretty good character too. Uh, Felix and Calhoun are pretty good, even though they don't do that much. All the visuals are really impressive. I like how they made this whole world within this arcade. And also, they never try to make it. Nothing here doesn't make any sense, unlike the sequel. And yeah, King Candy is one of the best Disney villains easily. That whole turbo twist will never. It's just done so well. Especially since, as everyone has pointed out, he works as a twist villain because he isn't really a twist villain. There is a twist relating to the villain, but technically nothing about the story would really change if he weren't Turbo and if he were just some guy who escaped another game or something. I don't know. Yeah, his story works really well. His whole crazy, disgusting, monstrous form boss fight thing at the end was really caught me off guard for sure. The emotional moments hit pretty well. It's a pretty funny movie. I like all the different locations. It's just a really nice one. Definitely the best video game movie ever made, which is not a high bar to be fair, but it's still deserving of that title for sure. And hey, you know it must have really clever, good writing when someone can make a 2-hour analysis on King Candy. But anyway, that's my thought. Those are my thoughts on Wreck-It Ralph. Will I ever review it someday? I'd like to, but I don't know if I'd have enough material on it. So, moving on to number 5. This is where things start to get a lot better for me, and that is with Hercules. Not great, but still really good. Hercules was a ton of fun. Because, yeah, I like how, unlike some of the previous Disney movies from this time, The Lion King, Aladdin, this wasn't trying to be as dramatic and serious, which Aladdin still wasn't really, but Or, I didn't watch Pocahontas, nor do I ever want to, but that was a spectacular flop and was dramatic. So I like that they just tried something a little more fun but could still have some nice drama in it. And Hercules is definitely a good example of that. It feels almost like Shrek in some weird way. The way it sort of parodies, Shrek Espesto is definitely a parody, but the way how this sort of feels like a parody of Greek mythology, but not really. It still feels like it's just embracing them. It's also just really fun. It's got a really entertaining villain. In fact, I'd give this about the same score as Shrek, funnily enough. Danny DeVito is amazing as Phil, because of course it's Danny DeVito. Hades is a great villain. But I like the songs. They're definitely not my favorite, but they're pretty good. The visuals are all really impressive and stylish. The whole zero to hero sequence is just great. But the climax is not the best, and I just did not buy the romance in this movie whatsoever. It was pretty rushed. But then again, everything else about this was just really fun. I like that Disney actually went ahead and made a movie like this because, yeah, they did a lot of stuff with fairy tales, but something with mythology is definitely not something they usually tackle. So I like they did this. Okay, moving on. Number 4 is, yes, you wouldn't see this coming, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Now you might say you're just blinded by nostalgia or something, and I kind of, but I just really like this because unlike those other movies, which are still very good, which are trying to be more dramatic and serious and tell some kind of heartfelt message, this is just about being a simple, fun, charming movie. And for just being that, this did its job perfectly. I can't put it any higher than this because, again, it'd be kind of it wouldn't really be fair to compare this to some of the big dramatic movies, but still, I really enjoyed this one. It's genuinely funny and entertaining and just really charming and nice and simple. I like all the voices, just I don't have much else to say because again, not much actually happens here. It's just a really charming story. My favorite part is probably the section where Pooh eats too much and gets stuck in a rabbit's cave or something. I can't exactly remember what it was called, but it's just a really fun one. I'd recommend you see it again. It doesn't hold. It doesn't. It's not like it's trying. Because again, it's not trying to be something like. If you are expecting Wreck-It Ralph out of this, you are not going to get Wreck-It Ralph. But if you're expecting something just laid back and fun, you'll definitely have a good time. Number 3. Okay, here's where we get into stuff that I really really like. That is The Lion King. This is the one Disney movie I've reviewed, and you should watch that review if you haven't. I was pretty proud of that one, and so this is probably the most important Disney movie of all time, even more important than their first one, Snow White. Because this just really leaves an impression on you. Because that's one of the reasons why this is so high on the list. This one actually did leave an impression on me. And what would you expect out of such a grandiose cinematic achievement? As I said in my review, which you should watch for further detail, this movie just gets better the more I think about it, which is definitely a good thing. The visuals are the best in any Disney movie. Not the best in any animated movie or any 2D animated movie. That'd be The Prince of Egypt for sure, but they're just absolutely incredible. Hans Zimmer's score is definitely not his best, but it's still really good. The songs are definitely not my favorites, but I still like them a lot. The acting is great. The pacing is all really good. There's not a second wasted. Much like many other great animated movies, it proves that you can movie can be an hour and a half less really, and still really you can still really make a really great film. I like all the characters. This movie genuinely got me laughing out loud a lot from Timon and Pumbaa, which the comedy in a lot of the other movies, as I said before, got me chuckling but not laughing out loud. And of course, the remember who you are scene is the best part of the movie. Probably the best scene in any Disney movie ever. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, the way that I just want to talk about that scene more because it's so good. And the climax too. The whole remember who you are sequence is Simba sees the reflection of Mufasa in the sky. His spirits. He pleads with his father to to help him as he says, "You said you'd always be there for me." And Mufasa tells him that you must remember who you are. You are my son and the true heir to the throne. Remember. And this gives him the confidence he needs to go back to Pride Rock and take down Scar, which, yeah, I've already talked about this in my whole video on it. It's great. You all know it's great. It's The Lion King. What else needs to be said? Number two. This was pretty close to The Lion King, but I have to say I like this one a little better. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now this one is just great all the way through. I I got to review this one sometime. First I have to address that I don't think the tension is ever really broken that much. People say the gargoyles ruin the dark tone, which one, only one of them is really there for comic relief, and I don't think they ever come at times when it just breaks the dramatic tone. And is the Gargoyles song good? No, of course not. But it's not the worst thing ever. And overall, I'd say I actually got quite a few chuckles out of this movie, like the recurring gag of the guy saying, "Finally, I'm free, not again." But aside from that, this is a true masterpiece. The music, again, not my favorite, but really good. Really sets an impression. Hellfire's not my favorite villain song. That'd Be Prepared that Scar had, but Frollo is the best Disney villain. Honestly, there's more to say about him than anything else in this movie. Visuals, great. Music, really atmospheric. The whole thing flows together really well. Quasimodo is a really good main character. I like his whole breakout scenes. He escapes the chains on Notre Dame and saves Esmeralda from being murdered by Frollo. Frollo is a very good villain in the fact that this guy really leaves an impression of he is a monster and he needs to be stopped. I like because okay, I said this in a few videos before, which is that I can enjoy a darker tone, but usually I'd appreciate something a little more lighthearted, even if dark can work. And this is an example of dark definitely working. I know there's no way Disney's ever gonna make a movie like this again, but I'm glad they're not. I like this is just the one time they tackled something as big and serious as this, and it worked really, really well. But of course, that's not number one. Because my favorite Disney movie, and it's not my favorite animated movie, definitely not, but one of the best, is Aladdin. This one was just great all the way through. Ugh, where do I even start? Okay, the visuals are not the best. I'd say The Lion King and The Hunchback of Notre Dame look better, but this still looked very good. I like all the acting is all very good. Of course, you can't not talk about Robin Williams as the genie. He's just genuinely really funny. His performance is top notch, and the animation is. I feel like most of the animation budget, or at least a lot of it, must have gone into him because they really went all out with the crazy things the genie does. Jafar is a great villain. Really sets a tone. Has a good song, even though I wish it were a little longer to leave more of an impression. I'd say the CGI on the Cape of Wonders holds up pretty well, even though I do wish it were in 2D instead of 3D. The romance plot's pretty good. I actually believed it, unlike The Lion King. It just not even Genie aside, the whole movie is just really funny. Like Iago, uh, Aladdin's monkey, voiced by Frank Welker himself. And the whole thing is just a ton of fun, and it really does leave an impression on you. This is what I wish more of these movies were. These top three are what I hoped a lot of these would be. But this is one of the few that actually is. I want to make a review of this sometime. I got it so I can get in detail about how great Aladdin is. It's definitely got the best songs of any Disney movie. My favorite is probably A Friend Like Me. It's not. I guess it's not the best, but I mean, I just really like it. The whole sequence is great. So in conclusion, that was my ranking of all the Disney movies I've seen. Moana 2 is coming out soon. As I said before, I'm not gonna see that. It is a Disney sequel. Do you actually expect something good out of a Disney sequel? And you can say that, well, the first movie didn't make it so that there could never be a sequel. And, well, that is sort of true, I suppose. It's just, what would you even do with a Moana 2? I mean, when I saw the trailer in theaters, I didn't even go out of my way to watch it because I really didn't care. When I saw that trailer, I just thought, is this just the first trailer? Because this shows absolutely nothing whatsoever. It just shows the people on Moana's island hitting drums, them on boats, and then Maui just appears out of nowhere. That's all it showed. What am I supposed to get out of that? Well, we will have to wait and see. I do not expect anything out of this movie. So, I enjoyed making this list. Again, probably my least favorite to make out of all the other lists I did, but I still enjoyed this one a lot. I think a lot of these movies are just overrated, honestly. Very few of them really lived up to the high standard I was expecting out of them, but they say with a good to great movie, it gets better the second time, so who knows? I'll probably rewatch most of these, so I hope they do get better. I mean, The Lion King has gotten better just the more I think about it, so who knows? That's all for now. Comment down below what you thought, and as always, keep on juicing.